Unfortunately for Nishikata, Takagi changed the rules of the game. She and the others assumed he was referring to the distant lamppost instead of the nearby one he originally meant. With this unexpected change, Nishikata wasn't sure he could still win, but he decided to try anyway. As they began counting their steps, Nishikata realized he might still have a chance. Takagi's steps were much shorter than his. Estimating the distance, he calculated that it would take exactly 72 steps to reach the lamppost. But before he could declare his answer, Takagi cleverly distracted him by asking a few unrelated questions. He had suspected all along that their meeting wasn't entirely coincidental. Half joking, he confronted her, suggesting that if she had followed him the day before, she might be a stalker. Takagi responded with a teasing smile, and Nishikata blushed, because, well, she had a point. He tried not to dwell on the possibility that she had been spying on him. But before he could spiral further, Takagi brought him back to reality, reminding him that the guessing game was still ongoing. Ironically, they both lost count of their steps. In the end, neither of them won. But that was fine with Takagi. She mentioned casually that she was leaving the next day for a family trip and told Nishikata he could ask her to bring something back if he wanted. Flustered, Nishikata blushed and told her not to worry about it. He didn't want to trouble her during her vacation. Still, 2 days later, Takagi returned with a surprise, a rare, limited edition ramen featured in the manga Forbidden Love **. She had remembered what he liked and gone out of her way to find it. Grateful, Nishikata gave her a small gift in return, a box of candies he'd picked up on his own family trip. He chose a bitter flavor to tease her, but the packaging gave no clue to the taste. Takagi tried one and smiled. Even if the candy was bitter, she was touched that Nishikata had thought of her at all. It meant more than he realized. Nishikata blushes in response, embarrassed by how flustered he's become around Takagi. Wanting to hide his face, he turns to leave. But just before walking away, Takagi calls out and asks if he'll come with her to the shrine to try the candy he brought back from his trip. As they walk to the shrine, Takagi repeatedly thanks Nishikata, smiling at how thoughtful the gift was. Nishikata, still blushing, struggles to respond. "It's not the candy itself that makes me happy," Takagi says softly. "It's the fact that you thought of me during your trip." Her words catch Nishikata off guard, and he turns red again. Feeling a little guilty, she admits something. "By the way, that candy you gave me, it's actually really bitter," she laughs. "I had a feeling it might be, which is why I asked you to come with me. I thought it'd be more fun if we tried it together." At the shrine, Takagi insists that Nishikata try the candy himself. As he tastes it and reacts with exaggerated grimaces, Takagi bursts into laughter, teasing him the whole time. After their laughter dies down, Nishikata grows quiet, then confesses something personal. He had a fight with his mom before coming back from his trip. "I wanted to be back in time for the festival," he says, hesitating. "There was someone I wanted to see." Takagi tilts her head, curious. "Who?" Nishikata pauses. Then, with a shy smile, Takagi answers for him. "The boy I like is someone I like to tease." Nishikata is stunned. His face turns bright red, and for once, he's completely speechless. The next day Nishikata rides his bicycle to the river to meet his friends. On the way, he spots Takagi struggling with 2 heavy bags. Without thinking, he pulls over and offers to help. As they walk to her house, the conversation turns to the summer festival. They talk casually, with occasional teasing, but there's a comfortable silence between them now that wasn't there before. When they reach her house, Takagi smiles and thanks him. As a token of appreciation, she hands him a cold can of soda. He accepts it, gives a shy smile, and starts to ride off toward the river. But just as Takagi is about to go inside, Nishikata turns back around. "There's something I wanted to ask you," he says, breathless but determined. Embarrassed, Nishikata invites Takagi to the summer festival. Takagi blushes in response, and since she had been hoping for this, she happily accepts his invitation. Overjoyed, Nishikata gives her all the soda he had bought and tells her he's looking forward to the festival day. Though excited, Nishikata is also nervous about the whole situation. He leaves, carrying the rest of the soda Takagi gave back to him. Later, he shares the sodas with his friends by the river. While they enjoy the drinks, they can't help but notice that Nishikata seems distracted. A small argument breaks out, likely triggered by Nishikata's inner turmoil over inviting Takagi. A few days later, the summer festival finally arrives. Nishikata waits for Takagi outside the candy store. She shows up a few moments later, dressed in a yukata. Once they meet, they head straight to the festival together. On the way, Takagi teases Nishikata by saying they look like a couple. This makes Nishikata nervous, especially when some nearby kids playfully call them a couple too. Trying to brush it off, he tells himself that only kids think that, certainly not adults or teenagers. Takagi, amused, proposes a bet. She believes most people do see them as a couple. Ironically, just then, an elderly couple walks by and also refers to them as a couple. But Nishikata insists the bet should officially start once they enter the festival. At the festival, Nishikata buys caramel apples. Unfortunately for him, the vendor comments on how cute they look together and assumes they're dating. This hands Takagi a clear win in their bet, and now it's time for Nishikata's punishment. Takagi tells him the punishment is to do something that a married couple would do. She picks the goldfish scooping game. However, instead of playing it together like she imagined, Nishikata focuses on beating her at the game, treating it like a competition rather than a shared activity, much to Takagi's quiet amusement. Nishikata catches a goldfish and seems to be ahead in the game, but Takagi quickly surpasses him by catching two. Once again, Takagi wins, leaving Nishikata defeated. After the game, she takes both her goldfish and Nishikata's, and gives them to a little girl nearby. Later, Takagi continues teasing Nishikata by making him feed her by hand. Nervous and flustered, Nishikata tries to do it, but his embarrassment holds him back. He can't bring himself to act like they're a couple. Afterward, the two continue exploring the festival together. While walking, Nishikata spots Yukari and her friends in the distance. Panicked at the thought of being seen on what might look like a date, he hides. But in doing so, he loses sight of Takagi. Fortunately, it doesn't take long for them to reunite. Once back together, they head to the next festival game, ring toss. Nishikata scores the highest, 5 points, and is about to celebrate his win when Professor Tanabe suddenly appears behind him to offer congratulations. Startled, Nishikata drops the ring, reducing his final score to just 1 point. Even so, he earns a prize. The vendor allows him to choose whatever he wants, and he selects a hairpin, which he gives to Takagi. She thanks him warmly, and in return, she gives him a scary mask from her own prize haul. The two continue strolling through the festival. When Nishikata spots his friends Kimura and Takao nearby, he quickly puts on the mask to avoid being recognized. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. His friends recognize him anyway. They greet him, and upon noticing Nishikata carrying a shopping bag, Kimura decides to leave them alone. Just then, the fireworks begin, and in the crowd and confusion, Nishikata and Takagi briefly lose sight of each other once more. Nishikata searched everywhere for Takagi but couldn't find her. Desperate, he climbed up to the festival shrine, hoping to spot her from above. Along the way, Kimura helped by pointing him toward the shrine. Nishikata sprinted as fast as he could. Before he even arrived, Takagi saw him from a distance and quickly approached. The fireworks had ended, and the crowd was beginning to leave. Feeling embarrassed but determined, Nishikata took Takagi's hand and told her he didn't want to lose her again. He didn't want anything bad to happen to her. Takagi was surprised and happy. It was the first time Nishikata had shown such affection. Hand in hand, they walked down the shrine stairs together. Later, Nishikata practiced his grip strength with a special training device. Seeing this, Takagi teased him, saying it didn't make sense to train grip strength if he couldn't show it off. In response, Nishikata proudly demonstrated by holding her hand tightly. As he did so, memories of the festival came flooding back. Holding Takagi's hand had meant more to him than he realized. It drove him a little crazy. His thoughts spiraled into a wild daydream. He began imagining Takagi in various exaggerated forms, even picturing the main characters from his favorite manga, Forbidden Love, coming to life. His imagination went even further. He saw Takagi as a cow, then as a cowgirl aiming a weapon at his heart. She pulled the trigger, and Nishikata collapsed, only to wake up suddenly. It had all been a dream. The next day, on the final day of summer vacation, Nishikata and Takagi met again. Takagi asked if they could go on one last outing before school started. What she didn't know was that Nishikata had a special reason for wanting to spend that day with her. As a game, Takagi asks Nishikata to guess the reason for their outing. If he fails, she'll give him a pat on the back as punishment. This comes after Nishikata mentioned he'd burned his back badly during a recent beach trip. Back in the game, Nishikata fails his first guess. As a result, he gently pats Takagi on the back, but even a soft touch hurts her sunburnt skin. On his second attempt, Nishikata guesses that the reason she invited him out was to tease him, as usual. Takagi replies that while his answer isn't completely wrong, it's still not the right one. He moves to pat her on the back again, but she objects, insisting that since her answer wasn't entirely incorrect, it should still count. Amused, Takagi decides to let it slide and ends the game. Nishikata is frustrated, feeling like all his effort was wasted. He demands to know the real reason she invited him. Takagi smiles and tells him there's no need to say it, because the reason is obvious. He invited her just to spend time with her. Hearing this, Nishikata gets so flustered that he starts to blush. Seeing him like that, Takagi teases him even more, saying that she loves appearing in his dreams, just like she did this morning. The next day, the two meet up on their way to school. Nishikata brings a surprise box, hoping to scare Takagi with it. He doubts it'll work, so he proposes a bet. If Takagi shows a surprised expression, he wins. If not, he loses and has to buy her a soda. Takagi agrees, and Nishikata encourages her to open the box. She does so slowly, and suddenly a bright light shines from inside. Takagi flinches in surprise. Nishikata wins. He starts gloating about her loss, but then realizes she wasn't reacting to the box at all. Fireworks had just exploded in the sky behind him. After that, she holds out her hand for Nishikata to take, just like at the summer festival. She reaches out to hold his hand and confess her feelings, but just as she does, Takagi is suddenly pulled away by an unseen force. She wakes up and realizes it was only a dream. Still, Takagi wishes it hadn't ended. Part of her really hoped Nishikata would confess his feelings. Later that morning, Takagi leaves home to head to school. On the way, she runs into Nishikata. They greet each other as usual, but then Nishikata tells her he has a surprise for her. Remembering her dream, Takagi quickly guesses that it's a prank, probably a box he plans to use to scare her. This catches Nishikata off guard. Nervous that she figured it out so easily, he sets the box down. Takagi walks over and picks it up, laughing. Even though she couldn't predict the surprise in her dream, she did in real life, and that makes it even funnier. On another morning, Nishikata walks to school, unaware that Takagi is secretly tailing him. But Nishikata soon senses her presence and takes every chance to catch her in the act. Despite his efforts, Takagi always manages to stay out of sight. During his walk, Nishikata finds a small pearl on the ground. A mischievous idea forms in his mind. He'll use it to prank Takagi. But Takagi sees him pick it up and decides it's time to reveal herself. As they walk together, Nishikata sets his plan in motion. He asks her to guess the mysterious object in his pocket. Without missing a beat, Takagi guesses it's a pearl. Nishikata is stunned and disappointed. In his surprise, he drops the pearl. In another scene, Yukari is secretly following Mina. Mina senses someone behind her and turns around, but sees no one. Yukari continues trailing her until they reach a yard, where Mina is distracted by an insect. From a distance, Yukari watches, but due to her tall height, she accidentally reveals her presence. Mina notices her and, startled, reacts instinctively, swatting at the insect and accidentally hitting Yukari in the process. Mina and Yukari meet up on their way to class. As they walk, Mina confides in Yukari, whispering that she feels like someone has been following her lately. Yukari brushes it off at first, but the camera pans to reveal the truth. Someone has been following Mina. It's none other than Sanae, carefully keeping her distance. In class, Takagi leans over to Nishikata and says, "Hey, I heard the teachers are doing desk inspections today." Nishikata immediately panics. What if I forgot something? What if they find something embarrassing? Takagi chuckles. Relax. How about I inspect your desk first, as a practice teacher? Nishikata, still flustered but grateful, agrees. Takagi stands up and mockingly takes on the role of a stern teacher. She inspects his desk carefully and finds everything in perfect order. Nothing out of place, she says with a smile. Then she smirks. Or too perfect. Almost like you're hiding something, maybe an adult magazine. Nishikata turns bright red. What? Of course not. Takagi giggles, clearly enjoying the moment. Now it's Nishikata's turn. Determined to get back at her, he inspects Takagi's desk, searching for something he can tease her about. But it's spotless. Not a single thing to use against her. Then a thought strikes him. Maybe she's hiding something in her gym uniform. Just as he reaches for it, Takagi smirks. I'll give you 10 seconds to find it, she says, beginning a countdown. Nishikata's heart races as the seconds tick by. At 0, she reaches into her gym uniform and pulls out a manga, grinning. Looking for this. I planted it there on purpose. You walked right into my trap. Later that day, the teacher assigns them to guard the library during a quiet period. Nishikata finds the task boring, but Takagi suggests a game. Let's each pick a book for the other to read. Takagi hands Nishikata a colorful dinosaur picture book. In return, he gives her a dry, old novel, hoping to bore her into submission. As they read, Nishikata occasionally peeks at Takagi. He can't help but notice how cute she looks when she's completely focused. Suddenly, Takagi speaks. I love you, she says softly. Nishikata's heart skips a beat. He blushes furiously. Before he can respond, Takagi adds another romantic line. I love you, more than the moonlight on the river. Nishikata stammers, flustered, until he realizes, she's just reading from the novel he gave her. You tricked me again, he groans. Takagi just smiles. You're too easy, Nishikata. On another fresh morning, Nishikata has taken up jogging through the city as part of his daily routine. While on his run, he unexpectedly bumps into Takagi. Beaming with pride, Nishikata tells her that he jogs every day now, and once even ran all the way from his house to the beach. Takagi raises an eyebrow, clearly impressed. That's a pretty long distance, she remarks, but there's a hint of playful doubt in her tone. Nishikata instantly picks up on it. Determined to prove her wrong, he sets off on the spot, running straight to the beach as fast as he can. When he arrives, breathless and sweating, he snaps a photo of the ocean and sends it to Takagi as proof. But when Takagi sees the photo, she's more captivated by the breathtaking sunset in the background than by Nishikata's determined effort. Still, she grabs her bike and rides to the beach, arriving shortly after. She hands Nishikata a bottle of water with a smile. I'm impressed, she admits. Nishikata turns red and tries to play it cool, but he can't hide his happiness. For once, he feels like he's beaten Takagi at something. Yet the victory is bittersweet. As they sit together watching the sunset, he realizes that Takagi seems far more interested in the moment than the competition. Somehow, that makes winning feel less important. Scene. At school, a hot day. The next day is sweltering. Nishikata arrives at school carrying a handheld fan, secretly planning to tease Takagi for not being prepared for the heat. But before he can say a word, Takagi grabs the fan and starts fanning him. Embarrassed, Nishikata protests, but she offers him a challenge instead. Let's play a game, she says with a mischievous grin. We'll use the fan to move an eraser across the desk. Whoever moves it the farthest wins. Loser has to fan the winner. Nishikata accepts the challenge and puts all his effort into generating a powerful gust. He manages to nudge the eraser forward by a mere centimeter. Then it's Takagi's turn. Rather than flapping wildly, she simply uses the fan to push the eraser directly across the desk, something Nishikata hadn't thought to try. Once again, she wins with ease. True to the deal, Nishikata has to fan her now. But as he waves the fan over her with exaggerated effort, he notices something rare. Takagi, eyes closed and smiling, is completely relaxed. Seeing her like this, defenseless and content, Nishikata leans in slightly, a smirk on his face. For just a moment, the tables have turned. A few days later, Takagi gets a look at Nishikata's striking poses from a baseball manga. He asks Nishikata to keep it a secret, and Takagi agrees, but only on the condition that Nishikata beats him in a pretend baseball game. Nishikata accepts and prepares to throw the ball. On his first attempt, he narrowly misses Takagi, but on the second throw, he gets distracted and pitches poorly, allowing Takagi to win easily. Takagi hits the ball hard and wins the game. Despite his victory, Takagi promises not to tell anyone what he saw today, if Nishikata lends him his baseball manga. Nishikata agrees but warns him not to get too excited, saying he probably won't like it. Takagi doesn't care, he just wants to learn more about Nishikata's interests. The next day, Mina and her friends find a cat on their way to school. Sanae notices the cat appears to be stuck between two walls and points it out to her friends. Being the tallest, Yukari tries to free the cat but ends up getting stuck herself. Mina helps her get free, and as they begin brainstorming solutions, it suddenly starts to rain. They take shelter under the roof of a nearby candy store. While waiting for the rain to stop, they see the kitten freed from its trap. The girls realize the cat wasn't stuck after all, it was just resting, like cats often do. Later in class, Nishikata feels anxious about the rain. Not having brought an umbrella, she decides to run outside as soon as the bell rings. She borrows an umbrella from the school and walks home peacefully. Along the way, her thoughts start drifting. She begins to think about Takagi. He regrets not saying goodbye to her before leaving, though not as much as he regrets missing the special episode of the anime adaptation of his baseball manga. But the guilt keeps creeping in, and he can't shake it. So, he decides to go back to the classroom.